What if I told you that there is a hidden eye within you, capable of seeing far beyond the limits of your physical eyes? A gaze capable of revealing profound truths and connecting you to an invisible dimension of reality, one that you have never considered. Intriguing, isn't it? This is exactly what we are going to talk about today, the power of the third eye, a spiritual ability that, although buried within us, is accessible to all. Ready to discover how to awaken this power and transform your perception of the world? In this video, you will not only discover the origin of this fascinating concept, spanning ages and cultures, but also understand how this third eye can become the key to a profound inner transformation. Imagine for a moment being able to perceive hidden truths, subtle energies, and even future events. This is not science fiction, but a spiritual reality that could change the way you see the world, and above all, how you see yourself. So stay with us until the end, because we will explore how to activate this third eye, how it can guide you on your spiritual path, and how it could well offer you a new, clearer, more intuitive vision. But beware, this is not a journey for the faint-hearted. Opening your third eye requires courage, patience, and a deep commitment. Are you ready to cross this threshold? Because what you are about to discover could well change everything. The images and sounds that will accompany this introduction will reflect this mysterious atmosphere and will awaken your curiosity. A soft and changing light, subtle sounds that increase the intensity of the moment, creating an environment conducive to the awakening of this inner gaze. So follow us on this mystical journey and prepare yourself to see the invisible. You know, the Eye of Horus, this symbol, it does not just represent a mystical figure in ancient Egypt. No, it is much more than that. When you delve into the story, you quickly realize that this eye has a special power. It's a kind of spiritual superpower. For the Egyptians, this eye wasn't just a decoration. It was a symbol of divine protection and clairvoyance. But be careful, not clairvoyance like in the movies. It wasn't something where you just magically see the future. No, it was an eye capable of capturing subtle energies, of seeing behind appearances, of piercing hidden mysteries. If you think about it, it's a bit like the intuition that many people have from time to time. That feeling that something is wrong or that you sense a hidden truth even if you can't prove it. Imagine that intuition becoming a constant power, a gaze that captures everything all the time. The idea of a spiritual gaze, or more precisely, a third eye, is what brings us back to a fundamental point. In fact, the Eye of Horus is just the beginning of a deeper exploration, one that goes far beyond ancient Egypt. This symbol is a kind of gateway to invisible dimensions of reality. Of course, at that time, the Egyptians did not have words to describe what we now call the pineal gland, this little gland in the center of the brain. But if you think about it, it is fascinating to see that what they called clairvoyance or spiritual vision is now linked to scientific discoveries that confirm that our perception of reality can be much greater than we think. So when we talk about this third eye, it is a bit like telling you that there is a hidden sensor within you, an antenna that can connect you to a more subtle, deeper form of perception. But how does this antenna work? Well, the pineal gland, according to many spiritual traditions, is the center of this activation. It is there in this little gland that everything happens. It is often compared to a bridge between the material world and the spiritual world. It is a bit like your brain has a secret connection with an invisible reality, a bit like a program that picks up signals that you do not consciously perceive. You may or may not be aware of it, but the idea is that this antenna can, in a way, open you to other dimensions of life, allowing you to pick up waves from another world, a form of connection that goes beyond the physical limits of classical vision. This is where it gets interesting. You are probably wondering, how do you open this famous third eye? How do you activate this inner gaze? It is not as simple as simply deciding to do it. Opening this third eye is a process, not some kind of magic click, but a long, sometimes difficult path that requires patience and commitment. Have you ever had this feeling of wanting to see more clearly in your life, of wanting to pierce the veils that hide reality? That's exactly what it implies. Opening your third eye is an inner work, a process of purifying the mind. This means that, to be able to truly see, you must first eliminate the distractions, illusions, and pretenses that clutter our daily perception. It is a form of mental and spiritual cleansing. It requires work of meditation, contemplation, and sometimes fighting against your own limiting beliefs. If you really want to capture the depth of things, you must first open your heart and mind to a broader vision. This quest to open the third eye is in reality an initiatory path. If you engage in this process, you will gradually discover profound truths, not only about yourself, but also about the universe. And then you begin to understand that it is not just about seeing invisible things, but about understanding, grasping deep truths that previously eluded you. It is a bit like putting on special glasses that allow you to see hidden details, invisible connections between everything that exists. It is as if you are getting closer to the true nature of the universe, discovering its hidden wisdom. And believe me, at that moment, your perspective on life can change radically. And then there is this fascinating phenomenon linked to the third eye. Many traditions affirm that, when it is activated, this inner gaze allows you to perceive the future, to see the signs, the synchronicities, these little subtle messages that sometimes appear in our lives. Have you ever experienced a situation where you had the impression that everything was falling into place in a magical way, as if events were happening at just the right time? That is a bit like it, this ability to see beyond the present moment. Take figures like Nostradamus, for example. This man claimed to be able to see the future, thanks to his intuition. His third eye seemed to give him a vision that was beyond that of the average human. Sure, one could say that all this is mysterious and unexplained, but there is a reason why so many cultures have associated this inner gaze with a form of clairvoyance. This is not just folklore. There is a real search behind it, a quest to understand the invisible workings of the universe. All of this brings us to a crucial point. The way we perceive reality is limited. Our eyes only capture a tiny portion of the light spectrum. What you see around you is just a fraction of what is actually there. The third eye invites us to question this limited view of the world. It suggests that other forms of perception exist, perceptions that we can learn to develop. Imagine that if you were able to open your third eye, you could see things invisible to the naked eye, auras, subtle energies that float around people, objects, places. This is not science fiction. It is a perception of reality that goes beyond physical sight, but which remains just as real. The third eye, deep down, is a powerful symbol. It is not just a vague, spiritual idea. It is a call to transform our way of seeing the world, to connect to a larger reality. And by doing this, you are not just opening a simple eye. You are opening a passage, a bridge between what is seen and what is invisible, a path to a deeper wisdom, an inner enlightenment. So what are you waiting for to begin this journey towards a clearer and deeper perception of the universe around you? Well, you see, activating the third eye is not something you're going to be able to do in the blink of an eye. It's not like you say to yourself, "Come on, I'll sit down, meditate for 5 minutes, and poof, I see everything that's hidden around me." No, it's not that simple. It takes time, patience, and above all, real work on yourself. Have you ever tried to understand something invisible, or even to capture things that you can't see with the naked eye? It's a bit like having to learn to see differently, to get out of your comfort zone. And that's not easy. It's a discipline. It involves a conscious awakening of your perception. And for that, you sometimes have to sacrifice a little of your mental comfort. So to be clear about this process, you should know that it often starts with a big awareness. You know that moment when you think, "But wait, if I focused more on my inner self, could I see things differently?" That moment is crucial, because if you can grasp that what's going on in your head influences what's going on around you, you're already starting to set foot on the path to spiritual awakening. It's like opening your eyes to another reality, a reality that's larger than the one you usually perceive. A reality where everything is connected, and where you as an individual can play a much bigger role than you thought. But hey, at first it can be quite confusing. You feel a bit like you're an alien in your own life, and that's when it gets interesting. Because when you start meditating or reflecting on your own existence, you start to pick up vibrations that you've never noticed before. It's as if you were starting to perceive things that others don't perceive, little tracks, clues hidden in your daily life. You see, the first step is this: learning to listen and feel these little vibrations that push you to think. And sometimes it can be a real shock because you realize that your inner world is much bigger than you thought. Afterwards, once you have this awareness, you have to know that this path is not going to be all rosy. You are going to have to let go of a lot of things, limiting beliefs, preconceived ideas, things that you think are true but which, deep down, are only illusions. This is where it gets a little more complicated. It's as if you had to get rid of an old backpack full of stones to be able to move forward lighter. And that is a real challenge, because there are things, beliefs, habits that hold you back, that make you doubt yourself, that prevent you from seeing reality from another angle. But if you really want to activate your third eye, you have to be ready to let go of all that. You've already heard that we have to let go of what no longer serves us, right? That's exactly it. Now, once you've done all this inner cleaning work, you're going to start to perceive changes. You're going to have stronger intuitions, clearer dreams, signs that multiply around you. Synchronicities, these little coincidences that aren't really coincidences, are going to start to manifest themselves more markedly. And that's where it gets really fascinating, because you're going to understand that everything in the universe is connected, and that every little action, every thought, every gesture has a resonance in the greater whole. It's a bit like becoming more sensitive to the energies around you and starting to pick up information that was invisible to you before. But be careful, it's not a straight path. You're also going to be faced with blockages. That's normal. When you open yourself up to new perceptions, there are times when your mind can be disturbed, when you're going to doubt yourself. That's when you have to stay calm and centered, because opening your third eye isn't just a question of seeing invisible things. It's also a question of inner wisdom, of discernment. And for that, you have to learn to trust your intuition, to not let yourself be invaded by your fears or negative thoughts. There, you're probably going to ask yourself, yeah, but how do I know if my third eye is really open? That's a good question. In fact, there are several signs that can show you that you're on the right track. As I was telling you, it starts with stronger intuitions. You will feel things, hidden truths, invisible realities. It can manifest itself in the form of very vivid dreams, unusual sensations, or even moments when you have the feeling that everything that happens around you has a deep meaning. You see, it is a bit like the veil between the physical world and the spiritual world is starting to lift, even if you do not yet fully know what you see. It is a gradual process, but more and more tangible. There is also this phenomenon that some people call the inner light. You know, this feeling of being connected to a greater force, an energy that passes through you and guides you. It is as if you have a source of divine energy within you, a light that illuminates your path. It's almost as if you suddenly start to understand things that you didn't understand before, and you know that this understanding doesn't come from your rational mind, but from a deeper, more spiritual place. That's when you see that activating the third eye isn't just about seeing things, but about feeling universal truths that are beyond human logic. And then there are dreams. Dreams. Another way to see that your third eye is opening. Dreams are becoming clearer and clearer, more revealing. Sometimes you will have visions, glimpses of the future, or revelations that show you hidden aspects of your own life. It's almost as if your subconscious mind is starting to speak to you in a much more direct way and show you things that you had never thought of before. It can be disturbing, but also fascinating. The process of activating the third eye is not a linear path. Sometimes you will feel like you are taking one step forward and 2 steps back, but that's okay. What matters is to be in the process. It's to keep moving forward, to keep exploring, to keep searching. Because in the end, what you will discover about yourself and the world will completely transform your outlook on life. Opening your third eye is a bit like rediscovering a world that you thought you knew, but which in reality is much larger and more complex. So are you ready to see bigger, deeper, clearer? You know, opening your third eye doesn't happen with the snap of a finger. It's not a magic trick like, I close my eyes, I take a deep breath, and boom, I see everything that's hidden around me. No, my friend, it's much more complicated than that. It's a long-term job, a bit like spiritual training. It's not every day that we manage to open our minds to new dimensions, especially when you realize that the reality in which you live is only a tiny part of what exists. So yeah, you have to work, you have to dig, you have to get out of your comfort zone. Because tell yourself one thing, to see more you must first learn to see differently. You're bound to ask yourself, but how do I do that then? Well, first of all, you have to tell yourself that everything starts with inner work. It's from the moment you realize that there is something more, something that escapes your 5 usual senses, that you take the first step. That's where everything happens, in this awareness. Because the problem is that we all live in our little habits, in our mental comfort, and suddenly we forget that there is more to perceive than what we see every day. But once you start to open up to this idea, everything changes. You start to pick up little vibrations, details that you didn't even see before. In reality, the idea is to make your mind more receptive to invisible things, to these little sensations that escape us. It's not necessarily easy at first, But once you get started, you'll see that it becomes almost natural. Imagine that your mind is like a radio. If you're not on the right frequency, you don't hear anything. You're just there looking for things that don't exist. But if you take the time to center yourself, to settle down and to adjust your frequency, you start to pick up on things that you weren't ready to pay attention to. That's how you start to feel the presence of these energies that surround you. Yeah, I know it might seem a little scary, but it's everything that's happening around you. People, objects, atmospheres. All of that emits waves, vibrations, and if you know how to open your mind, you can feel these things, understand things, without having them explained to you, and then you say to yourself, okay, there really is something more. But to pick up on all of that, you can't just sit and wait. No, you have to get moving. You have to concentrate. You have to let go of your rational mind that is always telling you, this must be like this, or that must be like that. Because in reality, these ready-made ideas are holding you back in your evolution. And opening your third eye involves a sort of deconstruction of your vision of the world, of what you think you know. At first, you will certainly struggle a bit. Have you ever experienced some weird stuff, coincidences that we call synchronicities? Well, that's the beginning of it, because as you open up, you start to see that these coincidences are not just coincidences. No, it means that there are things that escape our understanding. The people you meet, the situations that occur, everything seems to have a hidden meaning, a sort of message. You will start to realize that reality is more fluid, more malleable than you thought. It's like you're entering another universe but without even leaving it. That's the effect that opening your third eye can have. But don't worry. It doesn't mean that you're going to become some kind of superhero who sees everything and anything. No, it's more subtle than that. It's more of a refinement of your perceptions. The idea is not to let yourself be invaded by scary visions or hallucinations, but to understand that each person, each object, each situation has its own energy. The opening of the third eye is this, a refinement of your energetic perception of the world, and this awareness allows you to see more clearly, to understand things that you used to ignore. To get there, you don't just have to meditate a little here and there. No, you really have to get serious about it. You have to understand that it's an initiatory path, which you don't necessarily want to follow at first. It's not the easy road, you see, but it's a bit like a video game. If you want to move forward, you can't just move forward blindly. You have to learn to listen, to feel, to pick up clues that others don't see. And each time you pass a level, you see more subtle things, finer vibrations, hidden truths that you had never perceived. Gradually, you will start to see things from a different angle. Have you ever noticed that at certain times, you can be super present in a situation, and at others you are just like a zombie, living your life without really seeing what is happening around you? Well, opening the third eye is a bit like that. It is being more present, more attentive, more in tune with what surrounds you. You will also develop a keener sense of intuition. These little voices, these little impressions that push you to do or not to do something, that is what begins to make sense. You know, when you feel like you have to go right instead of left, or when you meet someone by chance and you already know that this meeting is going to be important. That's what you can grasp when your third eye begins to open. But be careful, this opening can also bring you its share of doubts. Because, yeah, you're going to start asking yourself questions. But am I going crazy? Is what I'm feeling real? And that's normal, doubts are part of the process. But that's precisely when you have to trust your intuition and your perceptions. Because deep down, you know deep down, that what you're feeling is true, even if it's not rational. And that's the big difficulty, accepting that our perception of the world is not limited to what we see with our physical eyes, but at the same time, that's what makes the experience fascinating. You'll see over time, the more you work on yourself, the more you'll refine your ability to see things. And when that happens, you realize that life is not just a series of random events. No, everything has meaning, everything is connected. And that is the most beautiful discovery you can make. Are you ready to jump in at the deep end? Because opening your third eye is not done halfway. Once you start to perceive, you see that every detail, every encounter, every situation has its place in the universe. And you are part of this whole. You just have to open your eyes and your heart. So, here's the thing. You start to activate this third eye, and you realize that there is a real change. Not just a story of seeing weird stuff or feeling super connected to the universe, but something deeper. It's like you're going through the looking glass, like your perception of the world is becoming sharper, clearer. You know, that moment when you realize that everything that happens around you is not just chance, but signs, synchronicities, little vibrations that you pick up on without even thinking about it. What you thought was just a coincidence suddenly becomes a kind of code to decipher. You start to see more than what is right in front of you. It's like every person you meet has some kind of hidden story that you can perceive just by looking into their eyes. It can be scary, but at the same time, so exciting. One of the first things you will experience is this intuition that becomes much sharper. You know, those moments when you have a feeling about something, a choice to make, or even a situation to come. You don't know exactly why, but you feel that something is going to happen, or that this thing is not the right choice. You are more connected to what surrounds you, as if you feel the energies of people, even without them saying a word. And there, you begin to understand why certain cultures and spiritual philosophies insist so much on the activation of this famous third eye. It is not just a metaphor. It is a real process which, when it is triggered, shakes up a lot of things in your way of thinking, acting, and feeling. But be careful. All this is not an easy path. No, not at all. If you are the type to think that you're going to activate your third eye just by meditating for 5 minutes, think again. It is a real initiatory journey. You're going to have to work on yourself, on your beliefs, on your fears. Why? Because this third eye is not just there to allow you to see beyond the visible. No, it forces you to look within yourself, to face your shadows, your blockages. It is a bit like having to clean the windows of your mind before you can clearly see what is happening beyond the fog. It may hurt a little, but it is necessary so that you can access this greater, deeper vision that the third eye allows you to experience. Another interesting thing about opening the third eye is that it can also change your relationship with time. Like at first you might feel like everything is happening at the same time, like you're super aware of the present moment, and at the same time you feel like the future and the past are more fluid, like they're blending together. It's not just a projection of the future or an ability to divine the unknown, but rather a form of connection with a vibration that runs through time, almost as if everything was already written in a great cosmic book, but you finally found the key to read it. This is where you start to understand why mystics and sages throughout the ages have been seen as people who can foresee the future. They don't see the future the same way you and I do, but they do perceive the energetic flows that run through our reality. And you know what? The more you open that third eye, the more you start to pick up on these signs, these hidden clues. You'll be shocked at how powerful your intuition becomes, and of course you're going to have moments where you're going to wonder if you're really ready for all this. Because let's be clear, this isn't just about seeing strange things or feeling different energies. No, this process can really shake up your perception of reality, of yourself, and of your relationship with the world. There are times when you're going to feel like you're getting a little lost, like you're too much into this new reality, and you don't know where you stand in relation to the norm. It's a little confusing, but that's what opening your third eye is all about. It's an inner journey. At some point you're going to find yourself looking into a kind of mirror, but that mirror doesn't just show you who you are today, it also shows you who you could become. It's also important to know that not everyone experiences this in the same way. Everyone will perceive things differently at their own pace, according to their state of mind, their level of consciousness, and even their beliefs. For some, the opening of the third eye will result in a rise in vibrations, strange physical sensations, bursts of light or visions. For others, it will be more of a form of mental clarity, sudden awareness of past events or life choices. But no matter how it manifests itself, the most important thing is not to let yourself be overwhelmed by the unknown. You have to know that you are on a path of transformation, a path that leads you to rediscover yourself in a new light. But once again, all of this requires time and patience. It's not a button to activate all at once. No, it requires discipline, self-love, and perseverance. It's like everything in life. If you really want to get there, you have to put in the effort. It's not easy, but it's so enriching. And there you have it. The more you advance in this process, the more you will discover that it is not just a question of seeing things that others do not see. It is above all a question of reconnecting with yourself, with your essence, with your true nature. Because in the end, opening your third eye is this: waking up to a new version of yourself, more conscious, more awake, and more connected to the universe around you. You will finally perceive what you did not see before, and this will completely change the way you interact with the world. You will be more aligned, more balanced, and above all, more at peace with yourself. But the best part of all this, is that you are only at the beginning of this journey. The question is, are you ready to see beyond what you know? Because once you start, there is no going back. You know, at some point, when you start to open your third eye, you realize that it's a bit like changing your glasses. Before you saw everything blurry, with this normal perception of reality, but then, boom, everything becomes clearer. It's not just a matter of seeing weird things or having mystical flashes. No, it's a question of picking up vibes, of feeling things that you had never perceived before. You know, like when you meet someone and you feel directly if the person is sincere or if they are hiding something from you. That's exactly it, but in XXL version. The craziest thing in this story is that you will realize that your reality is much more malleable than you thought. Before you believed that we were stuck in a well-defined world, where everything is rigid, where everything is controlled. But once your third eye is activated, you start to pick up more subtle things. It's as if everything was interconnected, as if your mind and soul were picking up invisible signals, vibrations from another level. There you realize that everything is energy, everything is flow. And what you thought was real before, well, you realize that it's just the surface of something much bigger, and that's where things get interesting. Because the more you open that famous third eye, the more you realize that the limits of your body and mind are actually much blurrier than you thought. You pick up energies, sensations, emotions that are way beyond what you were used to seeing. You feel like you feel the world instead of just seeing it. It's like you become more sensitive to everything around you, but not in an invasive way, more like you become super aligned, like you can hear the whispers of the universe. Not bad, right? Okay, so you're there and you're thinking, but why would I do that? Why would I want to open my third eye? Well, let me tell you something, because it changes everything. It changes how you see yourself, how you see others, how you perceive time, and even how you see your own existence. This thing is not just a story of mystics, clairvoyants, or shady sages. It is a way of connecting with a deeper aspect of yourself, something that has always been there, but that we often ignore. Opening the third eye is like activating a kind of superpower that helps you understand reality in a whole new way. You may start to understand things that you had never understood before, like these little things that people try to hide from you, but that you see through them, or this particular energy that a person gives off without them even speaking. You know, those moments when you are in a room and you can immediately feel if the atmosphere is cool or tense. That's exactly it, but in a lie detector or truth radar version. And that, my friend, is downright precious, because you're not just going to fall into the traps that life sets for you. You're going to be able to see people's true intentions, understand when a situation is not what it seems to be. If you know how to read between the lines of reality, you're going to be able to make more informed, more serene decisions. But be careful, that doesn't mean that everything is going to be easy either. No, opening your third eye is not a child's game. It's not just a matter of meditating for 10 minutes and hey presto, you have the keys to the universe. No, it's real work. It requires work, patience, introspection. Because let's be honest, when you start to see more clearly in your life, you're also going to start to see the dark areas in yourself. And that's not always pleasant. It means that you're going to have to face parts of yourself that you might prefer to ignore. Fears, doubts, wounds that you've forgotten about. But that's the price you pay if you really want to reach a higher consciousness. Because once you open that third eye, you can't go back. You're going to have to own what you see, own that truth. It's not for everyone, but that's where the real magic happens. And then there's this notion of time, you know? The more you open yourself to all of that, the more you start to perceive time differently, as if you're no longer stuck in a straight line where everything is planned and scheduled. No, once your third eye is fully open, you see time as a kind of continuous flow, where the past, the present, and the future blend together. It's like you can feel the echoes of events before they happen, or have some kind of deep understanding of what's going on in the world without even needing all the information on the subject. It's a feeling or an intuition, but it becomes more and more precise as you move forward on this path. The most important thing in all of this is that you are not alone. This journey you can do alone, of course, but there is a deep connection between all those who walk this same path. When you open your third eye, you realize that you are part of a whole, of a greater movement. And you see, even if the path is strewn with pitfalls, you know that there are invisible allies, people who are living this experience too, awakened souls who are there to share, to guide. Because opening your third eye is not just a gift for you, it is a gift for the world. You begin to see the interconnection between everything that exists. It is not only you who changes, it is the entire universe that transforms around you. So the question is simple. Are you ready to see all of this, to feel all of this, to be more than just a spectator of your own life? Because once you have opened your eyes, you really see life in a completely new light. And trust me, it's worth every second of the journey. Okay, now you're probably wondering, okay, that's all cool, but how do I open my third eye? Well, listen carefully, because it's not as simple as pressing a button and bam, you see the world differently. No, opening this famous third eye is a real process. It's a path, a crazy quest where you're going to discover yourself at each step. Like, you're not just going to discover your power, you're also going to confront some really deep stuff. Stuff that shakes you up, stuff that makes you doubt, but in the end it makes you grow. So first of all, you have to be ready to let go of your ego a little, that thing that tells you, I know everything. Because you're not here to just have cool visions or crazy spiritual revelations. No, you're here for an evolution, a radical change in your state of mind. And it starts by detaching yourself from what you think is reality. We live in a world where we are constantly bombarded with information, distractions, judgments, noises around us. It's like we're in a kind of mental cage, you know? And to open your third eye, you have to break this cage. But you mustn't believe that everything is black or white either. It's not a switch to be activated like that lightly. No, to really capture this energy and start opening your third eye, you first need calm, silence. Yeah, I know we live in a world where we are always running around, but you have to understand that the human mind is often too agitated, too scattered. If you really want to capture deep vibes, you must first learn to calm the flow of your thoughts. And that's not easy. But I'll tell you a secret. Meditation is not just for yogis or people looking for inner peace. It's a real key. A key to silencing all the noise around you and starting to hear what's going on inside. If you really want to feel your third eye awakening, you have to take the time to be in silence, to connect to your center, to your true essence. And that's where things get more interesting. Because the more you meditate, the further you move away from this noise, the more you start to pick up little sparks, little revelations. These are moments when you're going to say to yourself, but what just happened there? These are moments of pure intuition, where you know things without knowing how you know it. You see people differently. You pick up on the little nuances of their energy. You know straight away if a situation is good or not. And then you realize that you're more connected than ever, more connected to yourself, to your environment, and even to more subtle dimensions. It's a bit like when you connect to a radio frequency. At first you don't get anything clear, it's all blurred, but then you adjust a little and then, boom, it becomes clear, it resonates. And that's your third eye starting to pick up the vibes, the frequencies of deeper reality. It's as if you were tuning into a frequency that only you can hear. It's a power, not a power of domination, but a power of knowledge. Knowledge of yourself, of the universe, of others. It gives you another perspective on life. And then you see the magic happens. It's not magic in the sense that you're going to start doing magic tricks or wizard stuff. No, it's magic in the sense that you see things differently. Reality becomes more fluid, more organic, more connected. But you also have to be ready to face truths that freak you out. Because once you start to see beyond appearances, you're bound to come across things that bother you. Things that maybe you didn't want to see. That's when it gets hard. Because when your third eye is open, you start to see the truth, and sometimes that truth can be quite destabilizing. You're going to see things about yourself, about your past, about the people around you, that will make you take a step back. It can be a shock. But in the end, it's necessary. If you want to evolve, you have to be ready to accept what comes with the awakening of your third eye. So how does all this work in concrete terms? Well, once you've started meditating, once you're in this calm vibe, you also have to work on your energy. Yeah, I'm talking about energy, this little vital force that drives you. For many people, it's an abstract notion. But once you start opening up to all of this, you see that energy is everywhere. It's in you, around you. It's this energy that connects you to everything that exists. And when you learn to manipulate this energy, to adjust it, you're going to see your third eye become more and more activated. It's like a muscle. The more you work on it, the stronger it becomes. And this work on energy also involves purification. Yeah. You have to get rid of everything that pollutes you, everything that prevents you from seeing clearly. Negative thoughts, bad vibes, fears. Do you feel like all that's stopping you from moving forward? Well, that's because it's true. It's like veils that settle in front of your eyes, preventing you from seeing reality in all its splendor. To open your third eye, you have to learn to clean all that. It's not easy. It's going to take time and commitment. But believe me, once you're there, everything becomes simpler. Your mind becomes lighter, clearer. And then you're going to see doors open, doors that you never even imagined. But don't forget, my friend, all of this is a path. It's a journey where you will have to leave things behind, where you will have to detach yourself from certain habits, certain people, certain beliefs. But at each stage, you will grow, you will evolve, you will become stronger, more awake. And at the end of this path, you will see that your third eye does not only show you visions or revelations, it shows you a new way of living, a way of seeing existence in its purest beauty. It is not something that can be done in the blink of an eye, but once you are there, you will understand that it was worth it. So there you have it. You have worked hard, you have followed all the craziness of the third eye, and frankly, I hope that you have understood a thing or two. Because it is not just a cool subject, it is a real path, an initiatory journey. And if you are still here following what we say, it is because you are starting to understand the importance of all this. There's something powerful hidden in this notion of the third eye, and you shouldn't neglect this kind of information, believe me. Now, let's not kid ourselves. Opening your third eye isn't a matter of clicking on open and boom, you're enlightened. No, you have to be serious, you have to invest yourself in it. As I told you, this thing takes time, energy, and patience. It's a bit like having to reprogram your mind to make it more sensitive, more receptive to invisible things. It's not easy, but it really pays off, believe me. You feel like you're starting to see through walls, to pick up on things that you didn't even pick up on before. You feel like you're in superhero mode, but in a spiritual version. It's crazy stuff. And you know what? At each stage, you're going to feel something change inside you. It's as if each discovery, each opening, came to touch a deeper aspect of your soul. And there you will begin to understand that the world around you is not just an empty stage with people crossing paths. No, each human being, each situation, each event has a greater meaning. You learn to capture the energy of things, to read between the lines. You become a detective of the invisible, a guy who captures the details that no one sees. But be careful, you shouldn't go off the rails with that either. Yeah, it's cool to capture the waves and everything, but you have to keep your feet on the ground, stay humble, stay connected to reality. Because, yes, your third eye is a power, but like any power, you have to know how to use it wisely. Don't get carried away, be careful not to get lost in these invisible worlds. If you lose contact with the physical world, you risk going into delusions. It's good to want to explore the invisible, but you also have a mission here below with people around you. Don't forget that. So this path is not linear. It's not easy, but it's so rewarding. You'll see that each step, each moment, where you connect more deeply to yourself, each discovery you make in your perception, it leads you to a stronger version of yourself, more aligned with your deep being. It's an incredible transformation. You are here to evolve, to become someone wiser, more clairvoyant, and that is the true magic of the third eye. It will change you, and not just on the surface. It is an inner evolution, a rise in spiritual power. I am not going to lie to you, all this requires perseverance. You must not stop at the first obstacle nor at the second difficulty. It is normal, it is the path of any profound transformation. But once you start to open your third eye, you will see that it becomes natural. One day you will wake up and say to yourself, "Hey, but I have changed." Without even realizing it, you will start to see more clearly in your life, and you will understand that there are always answers all around you. Things immediately take on another meaning, and then you will really enjoy it. Finally, I want to thank you, seriously, thank you for taking the time to dive into this journey with me. You made the effort to open yourself to these teachings, and that is already a sign that you really want to make a difference in your life. So congratulations to you. Now it's your turn. Don't forget that awakening begins with a desire to seek and explore. If you want to go further, don't hesitate to revisit all of that, to meditate on what you have just discovered. The path is long, but it is exciting, and I am convinced that you will succeed in developing this deeper view of the world, to perceive what others do not see. So, keep the faith, stay motivated, and above all, be patient with yourself, because in the end, it is you who will open your third eye at your own pace in your own way. It's not a race, it's a personal quest. And this quest will make you stronger and more aligned than ever. Thank you again for being there, and see you soon for the next episode. Stay connected to yourself, stay connected to your mind, and most importantly, keep an open mind. That is true power.